every voice. Come on. Sure. Come on, y'all. Bring with the harmony. Of liberty. Let our rejoicing. Come on. Watch this. Watch this. You got it. Let it resound. God is the joy. Say, He moves. He promised never to leave me. He's never, never. I got to pass away. Gotta keep my life. I wanna go with him and swear. If you can, return. Come on. Make me swear. When you say it, come on. Return. Put those hands together, everybody. If you can, return. Make me swear.
Praise the Lord, everyone. Certainly giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, to the pastor of this great church. Let's hear it for Reverend Dr. Stevie Bartley. To all the ministers of the gospel, certainly to the premier civil rights leader of our day, Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. To all elected officials, all the ministers of the gospel, it is my honor and privilege not to introduce, but to present a man who has just walked a faith walk. If anybody doesn't understand that, 2.5, 3 years ago, no one gave him a chance to be governor. But that's the difference between a finite mind and a godly plan. Except. Exactly. Let me just say that it is an honor for me to present him because he has done everything that he was supposed to do. He has talked hope to the hopeless. He has been to our cities and he's been to the suburbs and he's spoken the same language. Not a different message to black people and white people, but a message to all New Jerseyans. On election morning, I prayed. I said, God, we've done everything that we were supposed to do. Now you do the rest. And I'm going to tell you something that when I think about where we began and where we are now, it is a modern day miracle. And so I say, God did this. I said, God did this. If anybody wants to think it was great strategy, that's fine. But God did this. And I thank God for that. And so I present a modern day miracle. A man who God has anointed. And let me be very clear. Those people who think they can mess with God's anointing, don't mess with God's anointing. Let me present the governor-elect, not the next governor, but the governor-elect of the state of New Jersey, Phil Murphy.
Please, thank you so much. It is, first of all, I want to give glory and honor to God. That's the most important thing I'm going to say today. Let's get that off my chest. I'm incredibly humbled to be here. I'm back at New Hope Baptist. Reverend Dr. Bartley, this, as you know, this isn't my first, second, or even third time here. So this is one of the places I call home. Thank you to you, your trustees, your deacons, your ministers, your congregants. I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be back here, as I always am. One more time, let's hear it for Reverend Dr. Bartley. Yeah. And sitting beside him and astride the National Action Network, and a dear friend and somebody who goes out there every day to try to change lives, whether it's in his ministry or on the streets of New Jersey, New York, and the rest of this country and world. It's an honor to be here again with Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. To all the members of the clergy from all faiths. This is a room, a sacristy. If you said minister, about 40 people would turn around, or rabbi. And so to all the members of leadership and faith today, I'm honored to be with you. To the elected officials, and we have a whole passel of extraordinary elected officials with us today, including some folks who just won either re-election or their first election last month. I'm incredibly humbled to be with them, and in, I think, every instance we ran together on the same line and we won together. And there's another community here that I want to acknowledge, and there are many that I could, but our brothers and sisters of law enforcement who are with us today, who do everything they can to make this state and this community as safe as it can be, guys. So thank you all. Hear, hear. So we stood for, in our election, whenever anyone asked us, what do you stand for? It was simple. We stood for a stronger, fairer economy that works for every New Jersey family, period. It's that simple. And I commit to you that those weren't just election promises. Those are not just words. We will, in our transition at the moment and in governing, we will act, and our actions will support and underpin those words. We're not fair. We're not strong, and when our state works and when our economy works, it works for a small slice. We need to get strong again. We need to get fair again. And we need to make sure when we do, it works not just for some, but for all 9 million of us. And there are many in this church. There are many, and by the way, like all great church, I don't know where Reverend Dr. Jefferson went to. Where are you? He's gone. So I was in Metropolitan Baptist a couple weeks ago. That's another great example. New Hope's an extraordinary example. There are many up here that not only in its spiritual being inside the sacristy is it a game changer, but it is in the streets and in the communities around you. And so I want you to know that government can't do it alone. Government can stand for the right things again, and by God we will. But we can't get there by ourselves. And let there be no doubt that if we are to succeed, it will be because we had the allies and the alliances of the extraordinary leaders in the variety of faith-based institutions, not just represented here today, but around this state. And that's not just one faith or two, but all faiths. And we're honored to work together. This is, by the way, the most diverse state in the United States of America. We need a governor and a lieutenant governor. Let's hear it in absentia for the rockin' Sheila Oliver. We need leadership that not just carries that as a burden, but celebrates our diversity and realizes that that's our core strength. And you have my word that Sheila Oliver and I will do that. I mentioned a stronger economy, and I have to get this off my chest. Part of that stronger economy is to reignite an urban agenda. It's to reignite an innovation economy. And if you haven't been to NAN Tech World in Newark, you gotta go. You gotta go. Right? So this is a game changer. This is a game changer. It's bringing together the activism and the strength of NAN's network. It's bringing together Newark under the great leadership of Raz Baraka and Council President Mildred Crump, who's with us today. It's bringing together faith leaders like Reverend Dr. Steffi Bartley. And you go there and you see young kids learning the skills that they're going to need to participate fully in the 21st century innovation economy. They once asked the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky, "Why are you so good?" He said, "Because I don't go to where the puck is, I go to where it's going." NAN Tech World is where we're going. I mentioned not just a stronger economy, but a fairer economy. And that fair economy is going to come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. It's going to be minimum wage getting up. It's going to be earned sick leave for all, not just some. It's going to be equal pay for equal work. It's going to be comprehensive, at long last, comprehensive criminal justice reform, which we desperately need. We have, and I say this, by the way, more as a former national board member of the NAACP than I do as governor-elect. But a sad reality is we have the widest white, non-white gap of persons incarcerated in the United States of America. And a guy with us today who also lays it out every single day of his life to help those who are re-entering, having been incarcerated. Former Governor Jim McGreevey is with us today. Governor on the badges of honor that we wear, high up on that list of badges is the following. I'm incredibly humbled that we won, Sheila and I won 94% of the African American vote. Which, by the way, not only am I humbled by, but that didn't happen by accident, right? Reverend Green was up here. I give him an enormous amount of credit, but each and every one of the faith leaders who stood in there every single day for us, community leadership, that is incredibly humbling to us. We won 82% of the Latino vote. We won an overwhelming percentage of the millennial vote. I say this not to take a victory lap. I say this because we have long memories. We won't forget that. And we won't forget that this is the most diverse state in the nation, and we will lead it in that regard. You have my word. Reverend Sharpton and I'll conclude with this. And by the way, we're committed to putting a team on the field, whether it's in transition or in government, that reflects the diversity of this state. Now, I'll leave you with this thought. Reverend Sharpton and I were just back in Reverend Bartley's office, bemoaning the state of the us versus them America. And by the way, the leadership in New Jersey these past 8 years, I think you could say they were Donald Trump before there was a Donald Trump. Right? And so this us versus them. Look at what's going on in Alabama on Tuesday, by example. It's extraordinary. And there's a lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of feeling of frustration. And there's a lot of fear. But I will tell you this, and you know this. We're better than this, and I'm the least qualified person to quote from Scripture, but I'm going to leave you with this one because it's my favorite, given the environment that we're in right now in this country, which is a historic moment. And it's incumbent on all of us to stand up and push back and remind ourselves what American values are, what our Constitution actually says. And so this is what I think about every night before I go to bed. And that is 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. God bless you all.
come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him a room, and let heaven and nature sing. Everybody say glory to the one, for the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him a room. Heaven and nature sing. Oh, God is born. Shout of his glory. Our Savior is born.
The one and only founding president, National Action Network. Put your hands together for the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you. First, let me give honor to God for blessing us with another day. Too often we get up like we had another day coming. Some of us even check the weather 3 or 4 days in advance, like there's some guarantee you're gonna be here. But we ought to get up every day and thank God that he gave us a day he didn't owe us, but gave it to us anyhow. And then we're thankful to God for being here at No Hope, which has been a rock in a weary land for many of us and many in this community. To all of the ministers, and far too many to name, but we are happy for their presence. And of course, all of our elected officials, mayors and others, and the boss of New Jersey, our own Newark City Council President, Mildred Crump. Who already got her inaugural hat ready. You can tell the occasion by the size of Mildred's hat. Then many, we talk about those that hold positions of influence. But I've been coming to Jersey a long time. And I know those that make it happen. And one of the reasons Reverend Bartley is so effective is we never forget it is the foot soldiers and the grassroots leaders. So I give honor to Salam Ishmael and the one and only brother Street Doctor. And a brother, he's joined the establishment now, but he's still a grassroots leader, Brother Marquise. These are the ones that fought when it wasn't fashionable. And we should never forget those that pay a price. But then to the esteemed leader, and if you want to get something done, and someone that can make mountain move, our leader, our spiritual guide, Reverend Dr. Harriet Bartley. Y'all confused. Y'all are confused Keep talking about Steffi Bartlett. When I want to get something done, I call Harriet Bartlett. Give a hand to our First Lady. Let me say this, that when Steffi Bartlett had me come out years ago to deal with the question of violence in this community, and we did not come out around a police issue, it was around violence, one to another. Media would make you think it's one-dimensional. But I found in him a committed and an unselfish and unafraid person that has emerged as one of the leading pastors and voices of our time. Give a big hand to Reverend Steffi Bartlett. He is our state director of National Action Network, founded NANTech, our National Action Network, Tech World in Newark, 28,000 square feet. Lord Dardell is, I saw Lord somewhere in the house, is here who runs it. And it is the headquarters where we do technology. It is also the second home of our new governor. He goes to NANTech about as much as I do. And it has been a center, certainly to Governor McGreevey, who has really delved in this second chance. No one is harder at work. And already acknowledged, my daughter Dominique is here, and her husband, Dr. Marcus Bright. They got married about 3 weeks ago, and they said they weren't going on a honeymoon then, because both of them have a lot of work to do. He teaches and she works with Nan in her own acting career. So once the election was over out here, she said, we can now go on vacation in Jersey. So I told Marcus, well, yeah, now they have a new governor. Wait till January, you can get back across the bridge without a whole lot of time. Now, he's not going to close the beach for you like somebody else out there. But there are places to vacation here. I was telling Rachel Nordlinger, who is our media genius, really, and lives in New Jersey, that it was 18 months ago or longer, Reverend Bartlett told me you need to sit down with Phil. And I said, well, I know him. He was very much helpful to President Obama on the DNC, been in leadership and industry. He says, no, but he's going to run for governor of New Jersey. He's not coming to ask for your support. He's coming to tell you what he's going to support and what he's going to stand for. And he came over to our headquarters in New York, and we sat for an hour and a half, and he laid out his vision. Now, I've heard a lot of politicians in my time, but what started impressing me about him is that just about every time since then that I came, whether it was South Jersey, North Jersey, whether it was NANTech, he was there. And everybody knew him. And everybody believed what he said. One of the things that you have to watch, you judge a tree by the fruit it bears, not the bark it wears. He has already had the most diverse transition team that I've seen a governor-elect have, probably in the history of this state, certainly than I've seen in a long time. If you look at who is selecting who will govern, you can tell whether you're going to have a diverse government when they take office. The governor don't walk around and point everybody. The governor is advised. And if you have a closed process, you're going to have a closed government. If you look at the population of New Jersey, and you look at the variety of people, and Governor Murphy, Governor-elect Murphy said it's the most diverse state in the country, but it does not have the most diverse government in the country. We are living in a time of great turmoil, playing people against each other. And it also has happened here in New Jersey. New Jersey, under the present outgoing administration, was like the Rocky Mountains. The higher up you get, the whiter it is. We are not asking for Phil Murphy to hand blacks no favors, not have no quotas. We're not asking for nothing but access and to be able to be part of the garden state that we live. The garden is full of everybody, not just somebody. This cannot be. President Obama and I were very close. And I said to President Obama, the only thing I want is access. I don't want no appointment. I don't want no jobs. I never actually give nobody no job. I want access. Right wing talk about how many times I went to the White House and I left as broke as I went in there. I went in about Trayvon Martin. I went in about police cases. I went in about EOC. I didn't go in and come out an ambassador. I didn't go in and come out with contracts. And we are not asking, I want the press to get this, Murphy to do nothing but to end the exclusion of blacks that have suffered exclusion in the last 8 years in New Jersey. All we want is fair. We'll compete with anybody. If we're not qualified, don't put them in there. We don't want nobody bumbling and grumbling. We don't want nobody in that can't deliver. We want to show that we can compete just like anybody else. And he said to me, Reverend, I'm not going to do everything that you may agree with, but I'm going to be fair. And I'm going to hear you out, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and what I say I'm going to do, and what I don't. When I say I'm not going to do, I'm not going to do. That's all you want. We do not want a puppet. We want a governor. He earned and got 94% of the black vote. And that was an investment in fairness. And too many of us are playing this politics of you take care of me, I take care of you. Take care of all of the people in the state. There's enough of us here that'll work if we're all there. New Jersey, Rabbi, has a great opportunity. And that is that with the ugliness that we're seeing coming out of the White House, where you on one day go and endorse a man for the Senate from Alabama, who has said that when he was questioned on when America was great again, you know that Trump ran on Make America Great Again. So an African American asked this candidate, Roy Moore, they said, well, when was America last great? Last great. He went back to slavery time. This is what Roy Moore said. He said, well, you know, in slavery was wrong, but, you know, we all had families and all got along. Well, first of all, blacks didn't have families in slavery because it was against the law for us to have a family. We couldn't name our children after ourselves. You weren't allowed to have a marriage license in slavery. So first of all, he's factually wrong and racially insensitive and offensive. But despite him saying that, President Trump endorses him and sends out robocalls and went 20 miles outside of the Alabama border to Pensacola to endorse a man that talked about the great times of slavery. And then he gets up the next morning and goes to the Civil Rights Museum like we silly or crazy or something. How are you going to honor those like Medgar Evers, those like Fannie Lou Hamer, those like Viola Louisa, those like Goodman, Cheney, and Swerner, 2 Jews and a black, that died for voting rights? And then you have your Justice Department withdraw from voting rights legislation and voter rights lawsuits pending in Texas right now. Don't act like John Lewis and the congressman down there in Mississippi that would not go to the museum with you were being divisive. They were not going to be played with. People shed blood to bring us this far. We will not let you turn the clock back. This voter fraud commission he set up to take blacks off the books, this gerrymandering scheme, this withdrawing from looking at any kind of police reform, this saying we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, this tax plan that is a gift to the wealthy and the private corporations. And then you're going to go and walk around the museum for 20 minutes and use the pain and suffering of people for a photo op. Is an insult to the American people. So next time, Mr. President, you come to your golf course in New Jersey, invite Phil Murphy over so he can teach you how we're supposed to be in America. Not surprised, because we've been knowing Trump a long time. I was on a television show yesterday. A guy said, Trump told me knowing you 35 years. I said, yes, about 35 years ago I started marching on him. Central Park 5 case. Then he turned Democrat. He talks about us, but he was a Democrat. Supported Freddie Ferrer for mayor. Came to 2 National Action Network conventions. But I tell you something that's very strange. In his golf resort here in New Jersey, in his casinos he owned in Atlantic City, he had 3 at one time. The new governor's here, the new mayor rather, of Atlantic City is here. So he's had businesses all over New Jersey. Am I right, Mr. Mayor? Now, can anybody name me one black executive in any business Donald Trump ever owned? Just one. So he has never practiced inclusion. That's why I say he needs to talk to Phil Murphy. Because you cannot be the head of a country and be the president for everybody when you only take care of some. You can run as a candidate for some, but you have to govern for all. Otherwise, your governing will divide and bring the country back. And I can tell you something, Mr. President, you can turn back the clock but you can't turn back time. Some of us are not going back there no more. People march in Charlottesville saying Jews won't take us back. Blatant Nazism and anti-Semitism. And we got enough sense to know if you don't like Jews, you don't like us. If you don't like gays, you don't like us. We can't fight for civil rights for anybody unless we fight for everybody. So I see the governor-elect coming to the same churches that he came to get his vote. To let him know he was not joking. A lot of folk win elections and go on vacation till inaugural day. Be somewhere in the mirror practicing their speech, learning how to grin. But he's already started moving around. And that's a good sign. Gonna be with Nan on Martin Luther King Day in Newark, and I'm sure other places. That's a good sign. And yes, there are gonna be things that we may disagree with, but we feel at least we have somebody we can talk to. At least we have somebody that can understand our point, and we understand what they're saying, even if we end up disagreeing. It is better than dealing with somebody that acts like a bully in the schoolyard. To have somebody that respects the people that they talk to you. Talk to me like I'm grown. Don't talk to me like I'm some little child that you want to chastise. But then you make Bartley and me go back in our old days when we were street preachers. And we trying to be sophisticated, polished preachers. Sit down, Bartley. We ain't ready. Harriet tries, but she can't get all that hood out of her. So we need a lot of support. And we need a lot as the federal government starts pushing back. The state governors are going to have to push harder. Our schools are in disarray. We have turned incarceration into a business. First things that the Attorney General did is privatize federal prison use again. Anytime you have private interests owning jails, it's like having a hotel. The only way to keep good business is full occupancy. So our children are given long sentences to serve business interests. If people commit a crime, they ought to pay for the crime. But you should not have an infraction, do 10 years, 20 years, the rest of your life, and criminalize kids that should not be criminalized, that can't come out and get a family and take care of their family. All we need is fairness. Well, Reverend Al, what you want them to do in the court? Do the same thing you do in other communities. Don't do me no favor. Treat me like you treat your kid. Your kid had a bad day and my kid is a thug. So I celebrate the unity in this room. And I celebrate a new day that the Garden State can show one of its occasional visitors how he ought to behave and how this nation needs him to behave. We need everybody to come together in these times. When you look at what's going on around the world, we run around chasing non-stories. While people firing missiles and threatening war. And in the midst of this, we are missing the high level of decay that we're seeing the government. The standard of the presidency has been lowered. Where there was times that children would grow up wanting to be president. Now they grow up mocking the presidency. And that's not healthy for the nation. But let me say this, and it's very important you understand that even in all of this, don't you be discouraged. And don't you back up. Because we've been through this before. We've been through dark times before. And what we're dealing with is not Trumpism. We're dealing with people insensitive. Paul said it best, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities of power, wickedness. It's wicked to take 13 million people off of health insurance when you know they have pre-existing conditions. It's wicked to give a tax break to corporations and say that they will trickle it down to folk, and you know that they only going to take the earnings and buy more stock and pump up their companies. It's wicked to privatize educations and take the money out of public schools, and then children don't learn in the schools and you tell them they're not qualified for a job when you wouldn't educate them to give them the qualification. It's wicked. To lock up children and break their dreams and bring their parents down. It's wicked. But we've been through wicked before. For every Pharaoh there was a Moses. For every Nebuchadnezzar there was a Daniel. For every Herod there was a Jesus. So I've come to tell you that we may have been shaken, but we're not broken. Because though Trump is in the White House, God is still on the throne. And in the end, right is going to overpower wrong. I get up every morning before dawn. One of the reasons I get up early is not only my schedule, but I like to watch the sunrise. The reason I like to watch the sunrise is it reminds me that the Senate and the Congress don't have the final word. We didn't need to get Mitch McConnell to pass for the sun to rise this morning. We didn't have to go and ask Speaker Ryan, is it all right to set the clouds out? There's a God that sets the course of the universe. And he said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then, right then, won't be no long time, right then, they will hear from heaven, and I will heal the land. I will heal the land. I will heal the land. Don't you give up. Don't you give out. We got through Nixon. We got through Reagan. We got through Bush. We got through his son Bush. We'll get through Trump. Because God promised he'd never leave us nor forsake us. If we stand up, he'll hold us up. My mama told me when I was a little boy, there is a God. There is a God. You'll play that organ, you're going to make me preach. I'm trying to be proper with the governor elected. But I don't mind telling you that I grew up in a single mother home. Reason I can fight is because I know what some of these young folk are going through. I didn't have a father in the house. I had to learn from other folks' fathers. Mama was a domestic worker. She used to walk to the train every day to scrub floors. So she'd put food on the table for me and my sister. But every morning I'd walk her to the train. She'd tell me, don't worry about where life started. Just worry about where you going. Keep your hands in God's hand. He may not be there when you want him, but he's always on time. He'll make a way. He'll make a way. He'll make a way. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes. 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 And I live to tell you that he never failed me yet. Some of the folks mama worked for sit home and watch my show on TV now. Cause he said if you're faithful over a few things, I'll make you ruler